Welcome to Andertons TV. My name is Jack. I'm here with the lovely
Alex.
Pleasure, man.
Thank you very much,
mate. I don't know where this comes in the time of the internet, but we've just spent a couple hours.
Future.
Yeah, exactly. And when they'll be released, but we've just spit it out, Jack. We've been with the Arturia stuff.
Yeah.
But you work for a company that not only deals with Arturia, but with
Moog.
Moog, and I'm glad. Right, I'm going to say it the way you say it.
Moog.
Cool, mate. Moog. And I've stayed out of the room. What I tend to do is try not hear what's going on because I love hearing the products with fresh ears. Chris, the Maltese Falcon back there, ran up and it was like he'd just done a line of... and it was like, man, you got to hear this stuff. So before... What have we got on the table?
Moog DFAMs and Mother 32.
And what do they sound like, perchance?
They sound like this. They sound like this.
Yes, 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 yes. Right. I'm hearing...
Makes sense? Is that all? Is that all clear?
Sonically,
Yeah.
as a layman, there's a depth to the sound that I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And just carry on. That sounds
just happened. Yeah.
Exactly, because at first glance, I'm like, how are you getting all that music out of this thing?
Yeah, I know.
So you hit me with what we got.
Okay, all right. So
Hit me
with
your rhythm,
my DFAM, my drummer from another mother stick.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is so basically because it's a funny one to explain because the DFAM is genuinely. I know a lot of people are like it's a game changer, like our latest game-changing device. It's something that a lot of people say, and I don't think is always justified. I think in the case of DFAM, it really, truly, actually is a unique product. It's something that has not quite existed outside of a modular patch.
Got to put my hands up.
Go on.
I don't know anything about it. So why is it such a game changer?
Because it's called the drummer from another mother, and that sort of makes you maybe you think it's like a drum machine.
Yes.
And it kind of is a drum machine, but it's also not a drum machine. It's actually also you can almost play a show with just a DFAM.
Wow.
Because it can do drums and bass and sort of hats and like noise and toms and strange pitch things and just classic bass lines on one device. And actually sometimes, depending if you get it in all the right settings, just one device could be producing an entire track. Like, you know, we've been playing around a bit with like other bits of gear, jamming, and I don't know of any other analog device that is more jammable than a DFAM. So like,
cool.
What we were hearing, right, that's just the DFAM. This DFAM is making all of that sound.
Sorry, so in the intro there was just this. We've got an H9
Oh, sorry,
down
there's a
here.
smidgen of reverse reverb there. But I'll take it off.
Yeah, cool. So we've got an H9 plugged in down here. So this is dry.
This is just this machine with this.
Cool.
This, by the way, is like a preset. It's actually a sheet. It's quite hard for me to get off.
It looks great.
There's
though.
a little sheet that's got a patch on it, and it's a really good one because it's called kick bass snare, and it illustrates how just one device, if you get it into all of the settings, and I'll do this. So all I do is I just copy where the little like orange indicators
I
are.
love this. It's so tactile.
So this is
15 seconds.
Yeah, but listen to what's happening. Is you're kind of hearing hats.
That's just
and
this, right?
Kick. Yes, it's just this, and it's not multi-timbral. It's monophonic. But the point with the DFAM is the way it works is it uses oscillators and filters and sequencers and VCAs, which are things that we all maybe know if we know analog synths. But it arranges them behind the panel. They're arranged in quite a weird way that they're not quite arranged in other subtractive synth. And having these two sequences, this top one controls pitch and this bottom one controls velocity. So I can fade notes out. And you end up with this really nice, like, sort of
undulating
dynamism to it. And actually, if you get fast enough, you can then play that and put kicks and other sounds. I could have another snare in,
Right.
depending on where these knobs are. And what I've not fully explained is patch because it would take a long time to do that.
No, let's go back to that bit of like, why is it a game changer?
But what I would say is because when I first got like hands on this thing, all you need to know is you just mess around with this thing and it just does amazing things. And it's not that important that you understand exactly how it works, although I would recommend that you just read the manual, which is awesome, and explain. I didn't know that was going to happen. That's the nuts. Very much an amazing device for techno. I've no idea why it's making those like awesome high frequency sounds.
Right, we're back at that bit. It's a game changer. Whole synth community are going.
This is nuts.
DFAM.
DFAM.
I'm the layman looking at it. I don't want to talk about it from a layman point of view. Just, shall we start going through it? And like you said, so there's stuff in the back about it's like raw sound quality. Like, what is it? How is it got? Can I connect it to other synths? Like, has it got oscillators? Like you said, it's got oscillators.
Yeah, you can. And like, for example,
I meant connect it kind of mentally, because when I look at it,
I see.
Yeah, and
this doesn't make sense. Basically, I know what you mean.
What you just said about the sequencer, that makes sense. But is there a way we can hear? So in the oscillators, does it have normal waveforms?
Yeah,
right,
it
cool.
does.
Can we hear those?
You can, but it'll take me a while.
Yeah,
it's cool. So basically, if I take these out, you're going to hear. So you've got basically two. I should probably just try and explain what it is, but you've got two freely tunable oscillators.
Yeah.
VCO1, VCO2.
which sound great.
Yeah, and I mean they're like Moog Oscillators.
And a saw and a square on each.
Sorry, yeah, good shout. There's a saw, a triangle, or a square.
Okay.
So dead simple, you can't modify the timbre of the waveforms, but you can do things like FM.
So when you said that's a triangle, not a saw, that's a triangle, not a saw?
Yeah,
right,
saw's got a different tone. Saws are brighter, whereas triangle's a bit softer, so it suits doing like subby bass things.
Nice.
But so for example, what I was doing there, I can use VCO1's frequency to modulate the frequency of the other one, which is a way of saying from two really simple waveforms, these guys,
complex.
you then get like these complex, which is cool. And I'm quite enjoying the dynamism of changing that.
Yeah.
But I can use these sequences, there's a default routing, but I can use these sequences to change that for me. And I mean...
sorry, man.
Go on.
So when I hit stop here, is there... since you turned it on, the clock's just been running the whole way.
Oh, it could. It has its own clock as well, if you wish.
Yeah,
and you can also trigger.
Cool. So that's how
you're making. If you're making a drum kit, I think the one thing to sort of clarify, because I think when we think drum machine, we've got like an image in mind of like a thing that's got a kick drum and a snare drum. Get rid of all that.
Cool.
Pretend that you come from another planet where that's not how drum machines work anymore. And actually, if you think about what a drum machine is doing, it's an arrangement of oscillators, filters, and envelope generators that are producing a certain tone. It's white noise going into a filter with an envelope creates like a snarey thing, you know. And you can do that on a DFAM because you can just have white noise. The key thing is with this device, depending on how you rig it up, you could have it so that on step 2, I'm only hearing a snare, but on step 1, I'm hearing what sounds like a kick, and on step 3, I'm hearing something else.
Cool.
So it can sound like a drum machine, but that's almost the wrong way of thinking about it because it's something new, and it's this idea that you can just jam out. I don't know why this isn't making any sense.
Oh, no, sorry.
Going for it. It's because I turned down it. So what I'm doing here is using basically there's two sequences here. There's one that controls pitch. So and if I come up here, I've got to flick this switch to say whether what that pitch sequencer is controlling. Is it both oscillators at the same time?
Okay. So in my little simple head, I could maybe, because this is pitch, that could be a bass line.
Exactly.
Like the simplest.
Yeah.
My little simple head. Cool.
So
and how am I, per step, how am I changing the pitch? This is the pitch.
You're just turning the dials, So that's just depending on where the dial is. To the left is the lowest and to the right is the highest. They're very wide range.
They are very,
So you've got to be quite subtle with them. But you can get a traditional, like a bass line. Bear in mind that it will be microtonal because these are not quantized to a keyboard. Do you know what I mean? They're not
fresh.
Yes, indeed. And then you've got your second oscillator.
Oh, sounds unruly.
But then you've got these two controls. So what's not immediately obvious behind the scenes is there's 3 envelope generators. And the envelope generators in this only have a decay control. They're just kicking envelope generators. They're always sharp attack. Actually, there is a slight exception, but let's just go with me for the moment. They're sharp attack, and then they've got a decay portion. And you can hear there's basically one for the oscillators, there's one for the filter, and there's one for the overall volume. So if I turn the decay, it makes
stunty.
It plucky or long. And I can control that using the sequences, for example, because the output of these sequences, which is by default controlling something like pitch, I could actually have control VCA decay, for example. Where is that? That is here. And it's doing a double function of making the notes longer and making the sequence higher pitched as well, because it's shared.
Cool.
But if I want like a more kick drum sound, the way that you would synthesize a kick drum is to send an envelope generator to control the pitch of the oscillators. And you can do this because there's an envelope dedicated for the oscillators. And what I do is I just I'm probably going to have to turn these down.
So it's just like a fixed A DSR, but then this. Sorry, I'm trying. So as an envelope, I think an envelope like controlled over time, but the first half of the envelope is being controlled in there, and this is like.
It's just the length. So imagine that it just always comes on instantly, and then you change the length.
I'm sorry out there if, but I'm just.
But if I just make this slightly longer, get more of a. Maybe easier if you hear it with just one.
Whoa.
Because it matters where I've got this as well. And I've got noise. That's changing the length of the filters. But I could do things like one nice trick is using the pitch sequencer to control the amount of noise. So if I go pitch to noise level, and then that means that if I have a high note, it will also have a high quantity of noise. Here there's like a snare built into this. And don't worry if you're like, because you're probably feeling a bit baffled by what I'm doing. It doesn't seem to all make sense because it is quite a strange arrangement of stuff, but I can just assure you that from like the joy of it is in almost not knowing what's going to happen. Like,
and you're getting a lot of change with
massive,
like
quite small,
every time you're touching something, it's like, whoa, I'm in a new planet.
And it gets the stuff of like patching in like control is where you can really go off the Richter scale.
And is Moog? Have they won a lot of plaudits for just? This is out there, right?
Yeah. Oh, it is.
And it was one of those things. I mean, out there as well. Like because you talk about it with such excitement, and like I said, so you have loads of modular synths, and to do what this is doing, would you need like lots of different?
You would. I've actually recreated what the DFAM does as a patch, and you need obviously you need like 2 oscillators, a noise generator, you need 3 envelope generators, a filter, 4 or 5 ADSRs in totality, lots of multiples, 2 analog step sequences, a clock source. What else? That's about it. And then, but once you've patched it up as well, you've lost the ability. You would then need to repatch in order to introduce more modulation into the patch, if that makes sense.
And the fact they've combined it under the hood.
It's under the hood, so that you've made available the ability to then modify this already made patch.
I'm getting it now.
So, and also there's another distinction, which is when I tried to recreate this in a modular, I made something that did DFAM-ish things, but it didn't have the tone of this. Like, just the sheer weight of like power, and that sounds like I've got some data to back this up, which is I played in Bristol in a club, and at the end of my set, which is all improvised like modular, I faded in the DFAM and just played the DFAM through like the whatever 10,000 watt PA, maybe not that big, but like it's a Bristol club system, and it sounded pretty damn good. Like it was outrageous. In fact, that with some delay, I think it's just got an incredible. So
you've had like live on the road experience.
I have actually
hearing
performed with this.
Sometimes I get it. People might think, they're hyping. I'm not hyping it up. I can hear from earlier. That's why I referenced
headphones. I think that the trick with this is you kind of just got to hear what it does. Because if I just say, it's like this sort of mad thing with 2 sequences, it doesn't make sense. And then imagine having 2. I love that. It really sounds like hi-hats, but
it really does.
It kind of had like hatty sound when it was blended.
Now, so we got to that point where
actions speak louder than words, I think. It's just like, just listen to what it's doing. It's like, and this is two of them, obviously, bear in mind. You know, that one doing that. And then when you add it. That's like semi-pitched as well, like very techno, but like stuff that's got like almost a pitched element as well of it. It's like a hybrid of drums and bass. It's not bass, all exclusively drums.
I've got to say, because I've got to learn more about it. Yeah. I love the sound of it.
Yeah.
I've got to learn more about it. So I'm learning about the two sequences that are going on here.
Yeah.
And we've got another great product. The mother. And I love how these two are going in together. Sorry, mate.
Sorry.
It's all right.
I just too much synthesis for you.
Exactly. And I know that when we talk over the synth, the boys have to edit it even harder.
Yeah. Well, let's not make an editing job.
No. Yeah, so this I've seen pop up a lot.
Yeah.
People talking about it as well. And how do you feel that they go, and how have we got this hooked up, how you're making that sound? So at the moment, these are both working beautifully, and I can hear them working in a percussive manner. But when you've got that element of the harmony voice coming in, I see that you've got, so these are clocked together.
Yeah, so there's no like tuning necessarily that's been harmonized, and that requires you just kind of do that by ear, really.
Yeah.
You know, you can, by the way, just to say that, like, you can totally, and I have done this, run the oscillators from the DFAM into the mother and use it as an expander, because these are full range VCOs and they can track 1 watt per octave, meaning that the mother can control them just as well as its own oscillators. So they are full range Moog oscillators, just to say. But yeah, like this thing is basically outputting a clock. It's making a clock, which we've talked about before. So it's basically just a pattern of square waves that just tell these how fast.
At the moment, which one, if I change the tempo, would change the tempo?
Just turn that dial.
So
more dubby.
So this is okay.
That's the master.
That's the master.
And then what I've done is I've used the multiple here, which is just a copying device, to copy that clock into 2 signals, which I've then independently run. So I'm just copying the clock and I'm just sending it to the DFAMs, and when you hit play and just go, they all just stay in time with each other.
Okay, I get mults. Where's so there's I can see the clock here.
Mm-hmm. This is coming out of the assign. So on the mother you can actually create different things out of the assignable. My favourite thing is creating a steady clock pulse, because if you just send from the gate output of
my mind's been absolutely blown here. how where is that?
So it's here. So this assignable output, that's making the clock, and then it feeds into the mult. And then that creates 2 copies from Mult 1 and Mult 2.
Yeah.
And those copies are coming through.
I'm using that on a mixing desk for like parallel. I use it for parallel compression and stuff.
It's basically just literally making a copy of that.
But where that doesn't say clock. Is that always clock? Assign?
No. Assign is flexible. You can change it to be different things.
Now,
I've just got it set up.
That's where I look at it. I go, okay, there's loads of cool switches and knobs. It doesn't seem like the type of thing where maybe I could tell something
you can
to
actually
be.
Do it.
And is that an editor or?
Yeah, no. You do it with the device. Look, if I push
there's some like
this is
nifty
advanced.
presses.
Shift reset and set end 8. Now I go into a little menu and I can. The manual gives you a guide to what that is.
Great.
But you can go in and change what that assignment.
Nice.
You actually make some really cool stuff. Like you can have it become an LFO, another envelope generator. But the reason it's good to use the assign as a clock rather than sending from the gate is if you just send from the gate, it can be good. It will only advance these things when this makes a note, if that makes sense. Which is interesting in its own right, but I just want a steady, so I can just have a single note on there, and these will just continue doing that little groovy thing.
Bit like earlier on, or whenever the other video, and you represent a few products, you had this on the S version of
the Mini Brute, yeah.
The Mini Brute, that it kind of reminds me of these bad boys.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Which you had. You could again tell you had some special.
You can
inputs.
basically create gates.
We got another video on it. It's great, and you play some great, just like this on the music.
Yeah.
It's just this is another. I'm feeling. I am one of those guys who's looking at it going, okay, cool. Right, how on earth is that coming out of it? And I know there's. I'm enjoying your excitement. I'm enjoying the sound of it.
I can just. I could explain it, and it will take a while. And I don't think
one day I'll know, and then I'll send you an email and go, mate,
my point is only to say that I don't think it's that important that you understand how it works. Understanding it can make those kinds of things, and that getting them is really just.
If someone came in a shop, if someone came into Andertons, we've got these by the way out in the showroom.
Yeah.
They don't need. We've got the patch cables.
Just get that bad boy on it, and then just do what it says, and then you just go right. Why is it doing that? And like, oh right. And like the manual for the DFAM is online. It's go to the Moog website.
Yeah.
Download the PDF and read through it because it's not written from a technical standpoint. It's a technical document because it's explained. But Moog are a cool company and they want you to understand. So it's written in a very friendly, approachable way. So do that to learn. You know how to use it. But I think that the main takeaway is just this is a device that you can jam like nothing. It's nuts.
And a bit back to the store as well. I've seen the box for it. They do a great return policy. In not to say that you would return it, but if say you're not lucky enough to be near Guildford or somewhere to try out the synth, we could always order it from us. And spend some time with this. That's what I see of this.
You should just always buy one.
Buy it. But what's nice is Andertons is a really cool, like you said, Moog are cool as well. Andertons are really cool with this type of product. They're never going to say no if it doesn't sit with you. But I can see that if you spent it, I want to sit there and fiddle.
I think it's like I say, when I first played with this, I didn't know I understand synths pretty well. And I didn't understand what it was doing. I had to have it explained, but that didn't stop me from just making the most murderous tones out. I was
and expense-wise and where they sit, you don't have to give prices because obviously it depends on Brexit.
They should be about the same sort of price. It's like the Mother and the DFAM are around the same kind of price basically, because they're quite similar in terms of the amount of parts.
And now that they're both out, do you feel like they're really they go together well as a pair?
Yeah, the interesting thing about the Mother is, for its sort of real timiness, like it's what am I trying to say? It's like I quite like how odd the sequencer is. Put it like that. So like it for kind of jamming ideas, like it seems counterintuitive because the sequencer looks like this, but you can do some really cool things. Like for example, I can instantly change the length and then toggle notes on and off.
Yeah, man.
And I could be doing this in front of a crowd. And then I could go shift, pick a note. And I can jump to the other note.
Now, when you go shift and key B, is this pitch related?
It's turning it into a little keyboard, yeah.
Yeah, cool, right. Oh, yeah, we've got flat notes. I get it.
Black notes at the top, white notes at the bottom, exactly.
But I also get that that's such a dinosaur way to look at these. That's what I see with this. It's like, ditch the keyboard.
There's no
jack.
keyboard on here, yeah. The keyboard is long gone on
It just takes me like a few minutes. I just turn this off just to hear it?
Yeah.
Not to be like, take your trousers off.
No, that's it. It's off. It's nice to just get like a little bit of the hats just all the time.
So I'm interested. Tell me what you're seeing here.
So
or feeling. Like when you said I want the hats here.
Yeah, I'm basically turning up the velocity. So I was like, I want the hats to be. If I want them to all be equally as loud, I can just do that, and they're going to be the same. But it's so nice because I've got a step for each one. You can just vary it a little bit, and you can build in. You know, if you spend time with it, like it should be able to fade out gently. Or do one off, one on.
So I'm hearing a real clear kick, snare, kick, snare. So where's the kick?
How
and
I
snare?
done the snare is because what I did was there's a little bit of envelope being applied to the oscillators.
Yeah.
Which just creates this kind of pow kind of sound.
Yeah.
But the high snarey sound is because what I've done with this cable is route a pitch sequencer to the noise level. So as we talked before about the idea of CV is like an invisible hand, if I have a very high pitch on the pitch section here, then it's effectively just the same thing as me turning the setting all the way up. It's having a high setting on the noise. So that literally, this socket controls that level for me.
And which one of these is the snare?
So it's this step 5, because you can see it's turned all the way up. Because on step 5, it's effectively turning the noise all the way up.
Man, thank you.
Does that make sense? So
yeah, cool, man.
So if I want, what I have to do is turn the noise all the way up. So if I turn this pitch down, it'll stop being a snare at some point.
Right.
Makes sense. So it's just. It's an abstract concept to use like a sequencer to sort of push the knob into a setting that sounds snary at one point, but that's what it's doing.
That's why it sounds so fresh and
it's
cool.
Because it isn't a perfect snare. It's got tonal characteristics built into it. And then I'm turning up the volume of these steps. Whoop whoop. And I can change their pitch. You can see that the pitch section is being fed to VCO 2, but not 1. That was actually kind of too low to hear. We have got some really interesting controls. These hard sync and FM, which we've played with before, which just massively extend the palette, but I don't want to go too nuts. It's nutty. It's this sort of freeform sort of beast.
And these fit in Eurorack?
Yeah, they do. So we've got them in these cases. This is what they come in, and they just work like standalone machines. But you can see these screws here. If you just unscrew that entirely, this whole plate comes off, and it's a Eurorack module. And I'm not sure off the top of my head how much power it requires. It's not a crazy amount. It's mostly on the plus 12 if you're a Euroracky person. Mm-hmm. So you then just plug that into a Eurorack via a ribbon cable, and it powers on, and it will operate in a case. And then that's just sweet, because it's this idea of using it as a sort of jamming. I really like the idea of using Eurorack to create jamming systems. This is just such a wonderful jamming.
And what a lovely place that, like you said, you turn it on and it starts doing stuff for you. Whereas I've found, and a few people I've met, being very kind, people are teaching me about it, is they've recommended something like this because essentially a lot of the basic, it's like semi-modular, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of does a lot for you.
Yeah, and that idea, but then they've expressed like saying it's great value anyway for the amount of
parts.
Parts.
It
You've got,
is
like
as
when
well.
you just
Like,
when you list it out.
when you do actually add up, like especially the Moog 32, there's like oscillator, LFO, an envelope generator, a clock generator, an assignable output that's effectively a multiple function generator, plus a VCA, plus a mixer, 2 mixers actually, one here, and another voltage controlled mixer, plus a 32-step sequencer with memory, plus MIDI to CV. As well. Plus, it's powered. You don't have to.
I think at Andertons we're dipping our toes in the water of the modular, and this is a nice way. It's a nice way to do it, but also I think in the future I'd love. I'm going to try to convince Stuart to do more of this, more of the esoteric stuff.
What's cool, what I was trying to show you with the sequencer idea is like what we've talked about, with your habits. Is like, if you have keyboardy habits, you've said how like, you're looking at this and you go, where's the keyboard? I need keys.
Yeah.
But you can plug a MIDI keyboard in and you can just play it like a trad synth. But I think I really recommend getting a bit tweaky with the sequencer. What I was playing around with before. If you just have a drum machine rolling on the background, it's suddenly you get into this whole little world of coming up with sequences and jams that you just never do with a keyboard. Do you know what I mean? It's like that sort of tweak, just kind of getting you out of old habits. It's got its own sequencer in it.
And I love how you said about a gig. I love that you perform as well.
Yeah.
With Mylar.
Mylar melodies.
Melodies.
With the DFAM.
I love it. I'm definitely coming. I'm definitely coming along. When you
front row and centre.
And a little bit, maybe if you, other people like me, maybe you're a guitar player who just stumbled across this, because we have a lot on the other channels, a lot of people come in.
Yeah, totally.
I think they come in here because they clicked the wrong button. Sorry for that. But when, how do you see a set as a modular performer?
How would I conceive of one?
And when you do a gig, do they go, like for example, when I go do a gig, they go, all right, you've got an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Tell me how you see it. Do you break it down into tracks
you are
or
going to think about
movements?
Yeah, you do. Like what I'm interested in personally, what this totally exemplifies, is the improvisational aspect. Is like I don't know necessarily what's going to happen before I play. Now I obviously have designed, in the case of Modular, I've designed a system. In the case of this gear, I've chosen what I'm going to have, and I've got certain effects. So you're going to make certain types of music, but you're just mindful of like who's been on before you, what tempo they're playing out, what the night is. Is it an ambient night? And you can. Then it's just a question of knowing the gear and practicing. The main thing is, if you know the gear really well and you practice it, this stuff is really flexible. It's always going to sound like dubby analog, goodness, but there's nothing to stop you slowing it down, making sure that you've introduced more space between the notes, that you're being more reserved, that you're not pushing everything hard, you're not distorting into the mixer intentionally, you're leaving gaps and you're having lots of space if that's what you're trying to go for. This gear is very flexible, and whilst it's true that what I enjoy about the DFAM is like that you can just play and you don't quite know what's going to happen. It's still, the trick I would say is move very slowly. Is always make very slow movements, because it allows you the time to savor what's going on, and it just gives you a bit of thinking time just to be like, right, what could I bring in next and what could I do that way? But it's more just being mindful and respectful of the night, I think, is like, if you, depending on what you're playing, don't go and play absolutely hard techno at 2 in the afternoon. Although with that said, I have to do a set at a family festival, and I'm on at 11 a.m., which is going to be very interesting.
You're going to bring the fire. I know you're going to bring the fire.
I mean, I'm like, in fairness, a lot of the parents will have been up since 5 o'clock in the morning with kids, so
I love it.
They're probably ready for a dance at that point.
I really appreciate it, man. I'd love to have you back another time. Yeah. And thanks for sticking with us, checking out this. I'd love. Would you like to jam us out?
Yeah, we'll have a little bit of that.
And I really like, and hopefully here at Andertons, we've got these in. You can come sit. We've got lovely staff in there, and trying to gauge that. But thanks, lovely to hear your perspective on it, because I'm finding it hard demonstrating some of this stuff in the fact of Like where you said, like, oh, man, it's just your thing. Because I see the concept and this beautiful freedom to it.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm like, why am I sweeping this
filter right to do
when I'm seeing all this lovely music being made and the freedom of it? But I get it. I'm trying to strike a balance.
Just got to find your own path and just do it a lot.
Yeah, man.
Thanks,
Rock
Jack.
out. Pleasure,
Cheers.
man.
Thanks, mate.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the Andertons YouTube music technology channel. If you're a guitar player or you play bass or a drummer or you're into keyboards, you might like one of our other YouTube channels, and I'll put links to those in the description below. Anyway, if you'd like to find out more about the products we featured in this video, please click up here. If you'd like to watch another video from this channel, please click here. If you'd like to buy a t-shirt like the one I'm wearing, click down here. And lastly, if you'd like to subscribe to our Music Tech YouTube channel, please click down here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.